the most realistic steering system available on the market, look no further than Sim Steering from Leo Bodnar. Designed and hand-built at the home of British Motorsport's Silverstone circuit, it's extensively used by professional driver training centres and race teams including Formula One since 2010. The high precision and completely linear response coupled with high strength provides the ultimate in realistic steering force feedback. Visit simsteering.com.
There are your champions for World Sport Series 2015. Walk
Racing certainly always walked it this weekend.
Hello everyone and welcome to qualifying here for the 5th round of Season 8 at Virtual Endurance Championship. We're here at the Sebring International Raceway and we're about to get underway for the 25-minute session here in the LMP1 category where we've seen a few changes. The car models have been updated, they look a lot better, and we are preparing for that 12-hour race in about a week's time. Alongside me, not as normal, due to Oscar Harbuck not being here, we have Mr. Adam Hodgkinson, who's been driving in the LMP1 category this season. Say hello.
Hello, Lewis, and hello, world.
Yes. Now, obviously, you've been jumping a bit between the 7 and the 8 car this season, which has been great fun. You're in the 8 car this round. At Doug
yes.
Henson Racing. I assume you've been doing a fair amount of practice around the circuit. What kind of characteristics does this circuit have in comparison to previous circuits? Or what differences?
I would say the main difference with Sebring is just basically it's a bit dull between middle. It's just all about the first and last corner for me. That's the most important part.
Yeah, of course, it's also a very flat circuit being built previously. I think it's on an airfield, isn't it?
Yeah,
very flat circuit. And yeah, it's high curbs as well. So it's going to be an interesting qualifying session as per normal. We've got a few new teams, a few teams missing, and of course the top 3 in the championship after Spa. I don't think has actually changed from the qualifying session that we had at Spa. But the session is about to start. Kuba Brzezinski. Now this is probably the biggest change, all for that team anyway, is that Kuba Brzezinski, Feeder Sport Poland, are instead of being in a Porsche now, they have switched manufacturers mid-season. They are now in an Audi. The brand new model, Feeder Sport Poland. Pretty sure that's just a prototype livery for them. A lot of these teams will have basically prototype liveries. They've not been updated yet for the full season that we have left, but we shall probably see. We'll see some updates in future. I'm pretty sure, but I don't really know who's going to be on pole position here because we've had 4 different pole sitters in the 4 rounds now. Adam, you will know that this is a close field. How many other competitors do you think we have for pole position, considering the 4 that we've obviously previously had? How many more on top of that do you feel that we've got?
It's definitely going to be interesting. Obviously, we've got people driving different manufacturers, people moving from the Rebellion up until the Audi or the Porsche. So it'll be interesting to see how GT Italia and the people that have swapped go. They're a bit interesting. I'd say the standard 4, maybe plus 1 or 2 more, but it's completely open, I feel, at this stage.
Yeah, I do agree with that. That we've had the 4 people on pole position, but then if you also include the people that have gone to provisional pole position, such as Kieran Parkin back in Interlagos, they had a provisional pole position that they didn't submit their fastest lap. Adam, that was the time you were in the 8 car. They've had their pole position. So the 7 is another car that can be challenging for pole position here. But of course, we also have Christian Michel in the Revolution Racing. They are another contender for pole position. He's qualifying that one this time. I don't remember who qualified that back at Spa. But we've got a few people starting their first laps. I believe Martin Furman is... no, it was Cooper Brzezinski was the first one round, wasn't he? He's about to start his lap coming through turn 1 now. Now, turn 1, pretty difficult corner from what I found at least. 6th gear, and he does go a little bit wide over that curb. But it's 6th gear and a bit tricky. The rest of this section is all kind of jumping between 2nd and 3rd gear, and then we get onto the straight with a slight curve. Now, Mr. Hodge, tell me how bad are the cars when you start abusing all of these curves? Because the curves are so high around here. Like, what kind of effects does that have on not just lap time, but on just how the car feels?
For me, the curbs are, they're kind of, you have a level where I hate them. I'm a fan of Sebring, so I actually quite like the fact that it does make the car react in some ways quite violently at times, but it's all very predictable, especially sort of the end of the first sector where you're bouncing from possibly one curve to the next. It's quite good. It's quite interesting, this Feeder Sports new livery. It's the first time I've seen it today.
It's very bright, isn't it?
It's an interesting mix.
I did see it in practice. We'll go through some of the track limits and stuff like that as the session
That's
goes on, as he runs a little bit too wide there out of the second to last turn. And by a little bit too wide, I mean quite very wide. It'll still probably come across to finish the lap, will Kuba. Championship leading car, this Feeder Sport Poland one, despite changing manufacturer. But yet they are still in the lead of the title, followed closely by the number 8 car and the Team RGPL car are the other one in the top 3. He crosses the line, sets a benchmark of a 39.243, which is beaten by Kieran Parkin on a 38.945, and closely beaten by Christian Michel on a 38.563. We've seen a couple of 37s in practice, most notably being recently from Martin Furman. So he'll be one to definitely keep an eye on. The 3-wide car having pole position gifted to them thanks to the 7 cars exceeding the track limits slightly at Interlagos. They actually started that race from the pole position. Out the final corner he comes, but we go on to provisional pole. Yes, he does a 38.060. So Martin Furman, the 143 3-wide car, one that we were expecting to change to an Audi, but remains in Porsche power.
Yes, that was quite interesting with all the conversation that was going on in the background about balancing. They were possibly the one team we thought would change. I would say the surprise was Feeder.
Feeder, yeah, absolutely.
Leading the way and not seemingly be able to put a foot wrong 99% of the time. Changing to the Audi, I'm pretty sure they'll have their reasons for it, and it might become obvious.
Of course, we are expecting a dry round this time round, being the previous 3 rounds in a row have been rain affected. The only one not being that, weirdly enough, was Silverstone in the approaching winter time. So, that's the only one that we've had as a dry round, which is always good. We're expecting a dry round here at Sebring, as far as I'm aware. We're certainly expecting a dry qualifying session as Cooper Brzezinski goes up to 2nd place on a 138.310. Again, these times not too relevant, although this session has started out with slightly more rubber than previous qualifying sessions. But again, it's not really 100% really at the moment. Do you want to run us through track limits and what the exceptions are, if you remember them?
I think pretty much the track limits are standard for most of the track, apart from turns, if I get this right, I think it's 15, 16. Basically the fast S's before Le Mans, and then running down to Sunset Bend. The general, you can use as much of the track as probably they use actually in real life, which kind of makes it a bit more sort of easy to understand the line through there. You can use the runoff on the left-hand side of the white line just before Le Mans. You can pretty much abuse that, and the curb on the exit. Obviously, you don't want to use a little bit too much of the curb as Cuba did earlier, because you tend
it's a bit too much.
End in the wall.
Yes.
Other than that, I think the curbs, because obviously, as you mentioned, they're quite high. They stand themselves as track limits. If you abuse them too much, you generally have a bad day. So I think track limits generally 2 wheels over the white line at most times, apart from the last section before Le Mans.
Yeah. And I think it's also the final turn you're allowed to use whatever you want, as far as I'm aware. I've seen a lot of people flying over the white lines. It is. And of course, turn 1, I'm pretty sure you can use the inside. Although, as far as I'm aware with turn 1, from what I can see, is that with a later apex there anyway, to get the line properly, you're not actually crossing over the white lines anyway. That is a very strict thing, though. That is the white lines on the entrance, as Kubrzinski has a bit of traffic here from Furman, but I think it was on an outlap. It's the white lines on the inside of turn 1. The outside white lines being where the pit exit is a strict no, do not cross. Where there are little bollards and stuff like that. You're not allowed to go over that kind of stuff. So it's pretty standard track limits here in VEC. These boys should be getting used to it now. It's a pretty standard affair. As we'll see who else. Stephen Bailey's not currently set a lap time. I'm not sure if he's on one or not at the moment. He is
Big
on one.
incident exit at turn 1 there, so I believe.
Ooh. Anyone?
Was that Furman, I believe?
Furman did escape, so I'd assume so that Furman possibly did escape from that. As we've got Stephen Bailey coming through Le Mans and onto the back straight and coming down towards Sunset Bend. He's got a bit of traffic up ahead, but they are a long way down the road. And he's been struggling with a little bit with traffic over the few practice sessions where it's been getting a bit busy. And we're both in that car, so we've got to hope he qualifies well, right? Right, Hodge?
Yeah, qualifying is nice. It's not the end of the world. As long as we're, as our aims is just room 1, and then
straight up
go
to
from
third.
there.
Straight up to third, 2,000s off of Cooper Brzezinski. Of course, the 8 car is actually one that's defaulted into room 1 anyway due to its position in the championship, which we will just quickly run through the top 3 or 4 because the 4th place is quite close as well. The number 30 Feeder Sport Poland car continues to lead the championship after winning the previous races. I don't really know how we're counting Spa, but they did win both of the longer sessions at Spa, so that's basically one race. But they won at Spa. They also won Interlagos and Fuji back-to-back. So they're comfortably in the championship lead on 115 points. Of course, just behind them we have the number 8 car, which Stephen Bailey's in at the moment, as Rudy Kupen goes to third on a 1:38.241, and of course Kuba Brzezinski goes up into pole by 1,000th of a second, a 1:38.059. But yes, the number 8 car winner back at Silverstone on 107 points, so quite close, 8 points between them. Very much within touching distance, but then 20 points behind them is the Team RGPL car, who are in front of SRVN by a point, who have won. SRVN's won in Room 2 twice. There'll definitely be one to keep an eye on with the SRVN and that battle for third position, but of course our championship fight between the top 2 is definitely heating up here at the halfway point in the season. That's the thing you've got to remember, is that we're only halfway. We've got a 12-hour race here. We've got 2 8s, I believe, being Turkey and Nürburgring. 2 6s being Nürburgring and Turkey. And then we also have the 24 Hours of Le Mans to end the championship. So a long way to go. And I'm curious to see, as I'm sure you will be as well, as Vasquez crashes out of turn 2, how Feeder Sport will fare now that they've switched over to an Audi. Will they get to grips with it? Because, well, of course, there are quite big differences between the Audi and the Porsche.
Yes, I would say the Audi's a bit more of a brute. It definitely feels like that way to myself. Maybe it's just the way the DHR cars are set up, possibly, but it definitely feels much more of a brute on power. And generally not quite as comfortable on corner entry either. That's where I would say the Porsche probably, for me, felt it had the upper hand. But I'm sure they have their reasons for coming one way across. And as I said, the team we expected to obviously have stuck with the Porsche, because it's actually, they're very, very equal. There's not much between them.
There's very little, yeah.
It's a slight, maybe it's just a personal thing more than anything else.
Yeah, it is a very personal thing. Depends on what the team's comfortable with. Of course, Feeder Sport currently doing a pretty good job with that, slapping it on pole position. But out of the final turn comes Martin Furman to finish a 39.127. He obviously had traffic on that one, but going to be starting another lap is Furman in that 3-wide car, looking very competitive for pole position. Is this Porsche? Of course, Porsche has been on pole position 3 of the 4 times this season, being PRL. Feeder Sport Poland, of course, at Fuji, and 3-wide at Interlagos, and of course we had the 1-2 for Audi DHR camp doing very well back at Spa. So the differences between the cars are very, very minimal. It's more about again, it's just comfort and stuff like that. But I'm still curious to see if Furman can grab this pole position, because I'm feeling like this round we are definitely going to see a repeat pole position car-wise. I don't, and bearing in mind that the PRL down in 13th position in a white car, as far as I'm aware. I think that's PRL, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, PRL down in 13th position. I don't think they're going to be challenging for that pole, but I think it is going to be between Kuba, Martin, and Stephen in the Feeder Sport 3 wide and DHR. Although, to give him credit, Rudy Cupin in the JRR car is doing a damn good job. Same with Matsutenta in the Texas drivers. That's up there as well. We'll quickly go through the top 10 order just quickly before we head over into the second half of the session. We've got Kuba Brzezinski currently on pole position, championship leader in the Feeder Sport Poland car by a thousandth of a second over Martin Furman in the 3-wide motorsport car. Then it's the JRR Racing in P3. Then it's Stephen Bailey for Doug Henson Racing's number 8 car in P4. Texas Drivers in P5. Revolution Racing with Christian Michel in 6th. Then it's Scuderia GT Italia got into Room 1 for the first time, if I recall correctly, back at Spa, now looking to continue that strong form here in 7th position. Kieran Parkin a little bit lower down than we'd expect. In 8th position, the number 7 DHR car. Labiella Racing in 9th position, and the brand new Doug Henson Racing number 9 car in 10th. However, that number 9 car that is in 10th position is currently under threat by David Berenek in the Team RGPL car, which is in 16th. They've been really struggling for pace around the circuit.
Yes, that is. I guess this week I've mainly been paying attention with practicing towards the end of the week, but yeah, they've been absent, and then obviously Berenek has appeared more recently, and they seem to, whether it's just struggling or setup-wise, they just seem to be a little bit off, but obviously guaranteed Room 1, so it's a case of it might just delay their progress an extra week or two, because you don't actually need possibly the outright qualifying speed.
Yeah, I don't know. It could also be just throughout practice and stuff like that. They might not have just practiced, because you think about it, you come into this qualifying session, it really doesn't mean anything for this car. As long as they're here, then they're already automatically into Room 1. It doesn't matter. So I guess there's kind of a bit of that with it, but it's always good to come into a race starting from the pole position. Although, as far as I'm aware, only one time this season has pole position gone on to win the race. Although we do have a new person jumping up onto pole position, Christian Michel, by 14 thousandths of a second in front of Kuba Brzezinski. No one into the 37s yet, approaching the final 10 minutes, but Christian Michel for Revolution, currently on pole position. That team really does need some good luck. They are currently 12th in the standings. They do not have many good points, good finishes to their name. They've really struggled. They had a good run in the second long session at Spa until it crashed at the corner with no name, as far as I remember. But Christian Michel doing a great job for that team, sticking it on pole position at the moment.
Yeah, Christian moving across from the long gone TXL team, possibly a great little signing for the Resolution team. It certainly bolsters their driver lineup to a good extent. Christian has always been and will always be super quick in these cars.
Of course, defending series champion. Theoretically, he's the last one, as far as I'm aware, being the defending series champion.
Yep.
The final remaining one for this one of the season, obviously moving over from TXL, the number 1 car. Obviously a very talented driver, and has always been very quick. It's not just the consistency of that TXL car that brought them the championship last season, it's the sheer pace from some of their drivers, like Christian. So he's looking like he's starting to fit in well with that team. A few struggles with how Spa played out, but looking good and strong here pace-wise at Sebring so far.
Yeah, I think most people at Spa, probably, even though it looked like an easy breeze for Feeder Sport, I think most people would have felt it just a bit more challenging than normal with the stop and start nature
Absolutely.
up until the last. I think the 10-hour run we had the last, but by then I think certainly I'd only really just got in the car at that stage, so I think heads a bit down a bit by then. But
Yeah.
fingers crossed for a full 12 hours in a week's time.
Yeah, we can keep hoping for that. We obviously had the 8 hours of Interlagos that was green all the way through, so hopefully we can have 12 hours here and give us some, get people enthusiastic about the upcoming Le Mans 24 hour, of course. But Jimmy's always working on trying to get that all sorted and fixed. It's a tough job. Is getting this.
God, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think I know anyone who would be able to do a better job than Jimmy does
Yeah.
day to day, let alone when issues kind of arise. There's certainly, obviously with Spa we had some track issues to begin with, and they're sorted out probably quicker than you'd probably get from the actual creators ISI themselves half the time.
Yeah, it's also I think Furman's run illegal on this lap out of T1, so I'd be concerned as to whether he goes faster. He slides anyway, it's fine. But yeah, absolutely. I will say the community, I don't really know after like the first day or so, but at least the first few hours, the forum wasn't a storm like I expected it to be. It was actually, it wasn't that bad, the forum. I don't know how bad it's got, but...
I pretty much avoided it
Yeah.
for the first couple of days, just for fear of what it could be. But
Yeah.
it's been
wasn't
a pleasant
wasn't that bad.
surprise. I think most people are fairly understandable about most things. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a case of we were running a beta version of our Factor 2 as it was, so
Yeah.
probably see there could have been issues coming along.
Yeah, there was a few issues. It wasn't just like one little thing. It was so many things that kind of came together, and yeah, unfortunately made a bit of a mess. But we're now looking forward to the changes that we've got here at Sebring and the final 6 and a bit minutes of this session to get us ready for Sebring. And yeah, hopefully this is a new start effectively for season 8 as Furman's coming out of the final corner to start another lap. We've got everyone out in this LMP1 class with the exception of Rudy Kuppen, who I don't know if he's just kind of accepted that's as fast as I'm going to go. I know I've done that before. Where you qualify, you do a good lap, and you're just kind of like, right, that's me done. See ya.
He could have well have just pulled one out of the bag. I think
Yeah.
they've always been a really quick qualifying team. I don't know what happens to them in the race, but I'm sure there's reasons here and there. But they've always been up in the top, I would say, half dozen. I would expect them to be there because they've always had a good qualifying pace.
Absolutely. We've got a few teams, although he does actually come out of the pit lane now. But yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of times where you cross the line, you just kind of look at the time and go, wow, I don't believe that. I don't believe that lap was that good. And then, it's just kind of like, no, I'll take a break, make sure it's legal, stuff like that, and just, sit comfortably. We've got 5 minutes to go, so hopefully these guys have got some legal laps under their belts. Although it is quite hard to actually exceed track limits around here with, as we've discussed before, the high curbs and stuff.
Yeah, I would say probably going to be most common would be turn 1, just because obviously the way you attack it, if you make a slight error in entry with speed or line, the outside curb isn't the widest curb in the world, and it's so easy just to dip a wheel over or two.
And you don't lose so much time either.
It has been interesting comparing entry feeds because we were having a look at, say, how the feed sport car enters in it. It seems to enter the corner, comparing it to myself in the 8 car, a little bit quicker, but you just scrub speed. So it's almost they exit possibly no quicker at all, or even slower because they scrub so much speed in the middle. And it's that scrubbing which obviously in qualifying doesn't matter for tyres, but in the race might play a part.
Absolutely. It's especially around here with places like Turn 1 as someone has just joined the server. That's good. That is a GTM car. He's just joined the server.
Alex Valero.
Yes, that would be quite annoying if you were on a hot lap or getting ready, especially with the final 3 minutes, and the RF2 thing of randomly stuttering. That's always good fun.
Yes.
Currently, though, for the past, I think 7 or 8 minutes, we haven't seen a change in the top 10.
Well, I would say we've had a close call between in 9th and 10th of the number 9 car sticking in the top 10, just behind Kieran Parkin in the 7. So Nathaniel's going really well in their first outing.
39.0. Now, he was saying that he was concerned with whether he would be able to get, it was Nathaniel Lipson in the number 9 car, he was concerned with whether he could get into the low 39s. And so far, 39.081. If he can scrape through into the 38.9s, then that would be excellent for them.
Slight improvement for the number 8.
Stephen Bailey's left. His game crashed. That is going to be pretty awkward, and I think that confirms them to 4th place in the number 8 car. That's a shame. He's been struggling with issues like that all throughout testing today, so that's a bit of a shame.
Yes, race button seems to be in game closed.
Yeah, it's
Not
game
quite
closed
sure that
ban.
one. Hey-ho.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get that issue sorted out towards race day. But currently, Christian Michel on pole position through the final corner. Stephen Bailey has re-entered. He will get another lap if he's quick, but he will only get one. So shout out to the rejoin. He must. Oh, solid state. There you go. That's why. I don't know. Cooper Brzezinski out the final turn. Is he going to improve it? And if he's done it, no, he's pulled off. We're not seeing any people really improving, and we've not
Michel's
seen
just
a
started.
37 yet.
No, that is surprising. Although I'm not too sure how the session was restarted, whether it kept the rubber from the previous session, but I only saw 37s sort of in the last 45 minutes of that session. So you've had everyone going around 30 plus cars, so the rubber might not just be there for a 37, but they're not exactly that far from it, so it's definitely possible.
It's definitely possible, but it's just how easy, I mean, none of this is ever easy. We do actually have Christian Michel up in the first sector by 500ths of a second. We do have Martin Furman out of the final corner. Now, this is something to keep an eye on because he looks like he is about to improve onto pole position. He does indeed. 37.846. That is the first 37 we've had so far and the final few minutes of this session. So are we going to see these big improvements as Stephen Bailey is out there for another lap? Cooper Brzezinski's not started his lap yet. But yeah, Furman's escaped to the pit lane. His job is done. We've got Christian Michel about to start another lap. But
yeah, he made a slight mistake into Tower, therefore, yes, the most annoying corner on the track is Tower. It's just one of those corners that's always annoying. It always seems to be between gears. Made a mistake on the entry, but he's just about to start another flyer.
Yeah, Nathaniel Lupson also in the pit lane. He's not going to get out for another one. Kieran Parkin, though, is 2 tenths up on himself, come up to the second sector and through the Esser section and into Le Mans and down the back straight. As I say, he's 2 tenths up. He's about 6 tenths off of the fastest time set by Furman, but this should be a good time to secure himself up a little bit further. Currently in P9. Let's just have a look at him through the final turn. Nice and clean, and a little bit too much understeer on the exit there, I think, but that's okay. Runs towards the line, keeps it short, improves by 0.3 of a second, only goes to 8th.
It's extremely close. We had Miguel Vasquez following Christian Michel, but made a mistake into the first hairpin.
Christian's
and has
not
probably lost
doing
any
anymore.
advantage he had by following Christian there.
Cooper Brzezinski and Stephen Bailey are the two that I really want to keep an eye on, as they are the main 2 contenders for pole position for my feeling. And Bailey slides it through. No, I don't think this is going to be an improvement for Bailey. We also have Rudy Kuppen in 5th place. He is the furthest round. He's going to be the first one to complete. Runs a bit too wide out of Le Mans.
Bailey aborts.
Bailey aborts, yeah, right. So I think Rudy Kuppen's not on well, I don't know if he's actually on improvement. I can't actually see at the moment.
It's down to feeder sport.
He did run wide there. He's coming through the final turn, though. Can Rudy Kuppen improve as the checker flag has been out? Way too much understeer through the final turn and across the line. I don't think this is going to be an improvement. No, it isn't. It's 38.783. Kuba Brzezinski, though, can he do it? Again, can't see the sector split, so we shall see. Round the final corner, very close to that wall on the inside. Can he secure pole position for his team? Runs towards the line, keeps it to the left, Can he do it? No, he can't. He does go to second, though. He does improve, puts in a 1:38.007. But it is Martin Furman on your provisional pole position. Your pole sitter's back at Interlagos, looking to secure that one. Another exciting session, and another one where it all kind of changes up towards the end. A little too boring in the middle. Not too much changing as people were securing their laps, and Stephen Bailey there with a game crash midway through the session, or quite late in the session rather, that's affecting him. But we do have the LMP2 cars up next, and they're always very exciting.
Yes, it'll be interesting to see if anyone can pip Anthony Jans to the pole this time round.
I don't remember who. What I think it was Sasha Glatter, I think it was, who did an incredible time in an LMP2 car. Yeah, Sasha Glatter for was it team area game area 51. Is the team. Very, very impressive lap, because I got messaged by an LMP2 driver that was just telling me I can't do that time. That's incredible.
Jaw-dropping moment for them. Then.
Yes. But yeah, we'll see where we go for this session and what kind of effect. It's always a bit of a close session. It's a very competitive field. Last time out, Team Spirit Racing got their pole position again. I'm pretty sure they've had all four.
Yes, I think they are. They're definitely very much the team to beat.
Can confirm they have had all four pole positions this season. And their closest margin, that'll be an interesting one, was at Interlagos, about a tenth of a second, I think. They were quite close at Fuji as well, but last time out they had pole position thanks to the mixed conditions over the Magenta Warriors car qualified by Mr. Hardwick by nearly a second was their advantage back at Spa. Of course, mixed conditions helping out with that. Not sure Anthony Jans will be able to secure a pole position of that magnitude here, but you never know. And this LMP2 field always throws up a good old surprise.
Yeah, just taking a look over the broadcast chat. So some congratulations going on with the GT Italia. Obviously, a big improvement what they usually do, what they have been able to do in the Rebellion, moving up to the Audi. So good congratulations. Hopefully, which is not hopefully. It's a bit hard to see it, but be actually quite good to race them for once.
Absolutely. The GT Italia team got into Room 1 for the first time this season in the Rebellion, but of course moving on to an Audi now. Great to see them up in Room 1 as well. Also, can I just say, a lot of these teams moving out of a Rebellion into an Audi or a Porsche is actually really great for me, because we can tell now, we can now tell the difference between an LMP2 and an LMP1 car for some of these people, because sometimes it's very, very tricky.
Yes, and also while on track, you can tell if you can hear what is a Rebellion, you definitely know it's an LMP2 and not an LMP1.
Yes, brand new sounds as well, although there's been a bit of a glitch with that. But now, unless you have still got that glitch and you haven't uninstalled the content, there's stuff in the forum if you're actually struggling with some of the audio on the LMP1 cars. But previously, the Audi, I distinctly remember, was a bit like a stealth bomber. It was so quiet for all the other cars, and now it's a bit louder. It's a bit more meaty with its sound, but the LMP2 session is underway.
It is indeed.
What were you going to say, Mr. Hodge, about
I was going to say it's more Massey Ferguson now than it has ever been, but it's the Audi, so it's diesel. It has to sound something like that.
Yes, gotta be like a tractor. But the LMP2 session is underway. Anthony Jans was the first person out, but he did give up track position to Schmidt. But I don't know if that really means anything. I don't know if he's not so confident in his pace. Those kind of things, you kind of drop behind people, I feel, when you're not so confident in your pace, because he was the first one out. He had the clear road.
Yeah, it's a bit weird why you'd give up if you perceive that as an advantage.
Yeah, I don't know why you'd give up clear air. That's a confusing strategy there from Anthony Jans, but I'm sure he knows what he's doing more than we do.
It could be he has a a routine for qualifying where he doesn't maybe push as much on the outlap, maybe.
Yeah, probably just building things up to temperature nice and slowly, making sure the tyres are exactly where he wants to be and letting everyone else do what they want to do. But through the final turn comes Daniel Schmidt, and he will be starting his lap for PRL Logitech Racing. Of course, no, I'm not sure how many changes there are, apologies. I'm not sure how many changes there are in the LMP2 category this time. I don't think there's really many, to be honest. Actually, one big change, well, fairly big change that I noticed in practice, and I'm not sure how this affects their championship. Where are they? It was Overstep Racing, who are now Atlantic, P10. Not sure how that's going to affect their championship, because of course it is still basically the same team, but just under a restructuring, going back to the same structuring they had in Season 7, where they were Atlantic Motorsport, not Overstep.
Yes, it's just a different team name. I'm sure they have their reasons. It's not blatantly obvious unless you're probably within that team.
It has also changed from the standings from Overstep to Atlantic. So yeah, they do get to keep all their points. It is still the same team. It's not a departure and then a re-entry. It is all remaining as the same team. So that's all well and good. As Anthony Jans has been catching Schmidt on this lap, was concerned whether this was a slight mistake, misjudgment. But he is catching Schmidt, probably not enough to catch any sort of aggressive dirty air or anything like that, but maybe
all
enough.
Depends, does he get any advantage down the back straight?
That is a very good point, because look at this. He is perfectly in line with Schmidt now. So as long as it doesn't give him too much understeer through the final turn, this could be quite comfortable. He's not sticking directly behind him, but enough, I guess. Maybe running a bit higher wing on that Schmidt.
Possibly, and also Schmidt may have cottoned on to his possible tactic.
Yes, possible. But out of the final turn, Schmidt's going to be the first one to cross the line. He goes on a 46.296, but Anthony Jans a 45.607. That is a damn nice time. Sasha Glatter, there you go, 45.832. He was on mid 45, I believe, earlier on with Sasha Glatter. But that is a very, very handy time in a shocking turn of events from Anthony Jans. Is the team, the game area 52, 51, 52, I don't know why I said 52, sorry. Game area 51, is that a new car? Is that a new car for this round?
I'm not too sure. It's not
I don't think I've ever seen it before.
It's definitely a colour scheme I've never come across before. But that means they may have been in Room 2, but it could also just mean they are completely new.
I don't see them in the championship list at all, so I think it is a new car. Apologies if you aren't, and we're just being dense. But either way, we will quickly run through your top three in the standings. Of course, it was a joint points position held for P3 last time out between Scuderia GT Italia and, of course, Team RGPL's 137 car that really struggled at Spa. But yes, of course, in a real big surprise, it is Team Spirit Racing currently leading the points, although not by as much as anyone would think. It's only by 9 points, despite them winning 3 of the previous races. They are very, very closely followed by Sim HQ Motorsports on 101 points. And to be honest, not far behind them is a team that's, to be honest, very impressive to me for its consistency across the championship so far, is Scuderia GT Italia on 95 points. Those are your top three, the 45, the 29 and the 60 car. Those are the ones that obviously automatically get a pass through into Room 1, as we've discussed all season. But yes, we're expecting those three to comfortably qualify in the top 10. Maybe the Scuderia GT Italia, sometimes they've not quite qualified that high, if I recall correctly.
They looking possible. It's hard to say. I can't say I follow that much
LMP2
of
so much,
LMP2
no,
because
of course.
Obviously generally follows LMP1, where we normally have a conversation about what happened or whatnot. They've recently just improved. If my live timing catches up, it would be good. They're now well into the top 10 somewhere.
They are. I have no idea. We're really good.
It's,
It's all kind of
yes.
changing up a bit at the top, you see, at the moment, so it's quite hard to follow. Scuderia GT Italia actually are in 16th at the moment, so they are having a bit of an iffy one. 3.1 seconds off, but I'm sure we'll see that team move a bit further up and into that top 10.
That quickly. The last time I looked, they were 7th.
Wow. That is impressive. Of course, we are setting the first few lap times of this session, 18 minutes to go, and we don't expect this session to spice up a little bit until that final 10 minutes, so hence why we're not really focusing on the current order. But I do know for sure that a mid 45 is a very, very good time. I know that for certain.
Yeah, the fact that it's not a billion miles away from an LMP1 race pace, it's only sort of between 5 and 6 seconds off of what a decent race lap is, just shows how quick that is.
Yeah, not a decent race lap for me at the moment. I'm quite a way off, but
You've got a week.
yeah, exactly. This is the thing, is for a lot of these boys, got a week to still practice race pace. That's actually one of the best things about this, that qualifying's not on the same day. It's not even in the same week, really. You've got loads of time to tune the car race-wise. I distinctly remember at Silverstone, we were actually finding a lot of time in that final week where, we made the car a lot quicker. Of course, the 7 car didn't follow the same strategy, did they, buddy?
No, generally because we were playing around with the setup the morning of the race, which is generally not the best idea, but we found the sweet spot. And then, unfortunately, that time it was only me about for the 7, so I wasn't going to commit to that without my other teammate being there. So yes, you get the great advantage of having maybe a few days to prepare for qualifying, and then you've got another week to get out of qualifying mode and look at generally just consistency. Maybe even play about with the fuel mileage and see if you can just maybe push double stint out the tyres. Whether that's actually worthwhile doing an LMP1 these days is another matter. But yeah, the spacing a week apart certainly does make life a little bit easier.
Yeah, of course, the double stinting tyres in LMP1 at least was famously tried back at Silverstone in the TXL racing car. On the hard tyres, it didn't work very well, but of course Silverstone's actually quite a high degradation circuit.
It did work for, I can't remember the team.
It was RGPL at Spa.
Yes, at Spa.
In the mediums, I believe, actually.
Yes. Double stinting the mediums kept them in the lead.
Yeah, it was very, very impressive stuff from RGPL back at Spa to try and make that strategy work. I'd be surprised if they don't try a very similar thing here, being that really this circuit, as far as I'm aware, visually isn't too highly degrading. Of course, it's quite a coarse circuit, and you do have stuff like the final turn, and it's very easy to attack this track very, very aggressively and burn up the tyres. Turn 1's obviously a very, very fast one as well, but there aren't too many fast right-handers. Left-handers.
No, the combination after turn 1, that I tend to find, if you are able to keep an eye on the temperatures through the technically what is 3, 4 and 5, even though I see it as 2, 3 and 4 because there's a kink beforehand, that combination there, because your tyres don't get much of a chance to reduce any sort of temperature at all on the rundown from turn 1, that can be the killer.
Yeah, it's all temperature management is tyre conservation. It's all keeping an eye on the tyres, because obviously in R-Factor 2 it's your thermal degradation that's the main factor in your actual overall degradation of the tyres. You can have 80% left on your tyres, but they could be rubbish. And it's so weird as well to see how different people use the tyres differently. We were on the same setup at DHR, but we were all split by like 30% on tyres at Spa.
When you mean we, you mean everyone, and then there was you.
Yeah. But I was also the slowest, so I'll take that.
Yes, we know at least one team which had similar sort of wear to yourself, and I think pretty much everyone was asking just how, but it's down to setup and style.
Yeah, style is very, very key. Obviously, most important thing, don't look up. And how aggressive you are through traffic, but we will quickly focus on the session just for a moment, as we are 13 and a bit minutes to go, and we do want to quickly go through this order. before we move on. So, your top 10 currently, Sasha Glatter. He did actually improve. Well, we really weren't paying attention on that, sorry. But Sasha Glatter actually improved onto pole position quite a while ago, apparently. 45.454. Now, Anthony Jans, I don't think will quite like that. He wants to have this podium streak of pole position streak of 5 pole positions in a row, but Sasha Glatter's threatening that at the moment in fantastic form, 45.454. But Anthony Jans, championship leader, 45.607. And then behind that is Daniel Schmidt in the PRL Logitech Racing, 46.013. Sim HQ Motorsports in 4th, a 46.339. Of course, second in the championship, that car. Shane Burke doing a great job up in 5th position. Of course, it qualified very nicely back at Silverstone, but then had some issues with its cutting and dropped into room 2. 46.564 is that one's time, though. Joe Chiampa for Odin Racing, a team that we've seen have flashes of great pace. 46.848 for him. Then 7th position, Atlantic Motorsport, the newly branded, or I don't know if it's newly branded or whatever you want to call it, because it is actually the previous. As Sasha Glatter actually improved on a 45.307 now, so that is an insanely quick time, 0.3 clear of Anthony Jans. But yes, Atlantic Motorsport 46.863. Then it's Kyushu Motorsport 46.866 in 8th position, Flatline in 9th, and then Tommy Ayala in the Magenta Warriors racing car in 10th. However, we do have the Scuderia GT Italia still 3.4 seconds off of the pace, down in 18th position, so they are actually within the top 10 as Anthony Jans improves to be within 500. So we've got a very good fight for pole position here.
It's certainly getting close. It's close between the top 2, then a little bit of gap to Mr. Schmidt, and then again, I would say it's close between 4th down to 10th is another 7 tenths itself. So it's clearly you've got the cream rising to the top a little bit, but that midfield is close.
Yeah, the midfield's close. And of course, we've got this fantastic fight for pole position here between Sasha Glatter and Anthony Jans. This is something that we've been waiting for here in the LMP2 category in qualifying, because so far this season, Anthony Jans has completely dominated this category.
Domination is definitely the word. As you said, confirmed the 4 poles out of the first 4 races.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't do any better than that. It's nice to see you've got Tomio following Mr. Jans, so that could be an interesting outcome for them as a just into room 1 in placings without factoring in automatic room 1 entries there, but they're just into the top 10, so hopefully following Anthony might grab them a couple more spots.
Yeah, these two, of course, they're actually not on laps at this present moment in time, but Anthony Jans is going to be starting his as Tomio is pushing very, very hard to keep up, going over that curve on the exit of Le Mans. But Anthony Jans coming up to that final turn, looking to fight back here against this threat for his domination streak here in LMP2. Can it? The thing is we're halfway through the championship, and a thing like this, as much as it doesn't sound much, you've qualified pole, and then second. Oh no, but it can do an awful lot to confidence and stuff like that. I know it's only second, but when you've had such strength and this random person comes in and beats you, it's just like, oh. And that kind of stuff can completely change the flow of a championship, as we've had lots of people moving around now. So I'm sure we'll go through the order a bit later on in this session.
Yeah, to back up the whole, a new team, a new person coming in and just giving you something to think about. I take it be, the second gap from Spa qualifying for Anthony Jans last race out was probably down to conditions more than anything else, but I can't remember it being hugely close as it is now with just about half a tenth between the top 2 at the moment. It'll be interesting to see the outcome at the end.
Yeah, but Anthony Jans is completely pushing now. He's got yellow flags in the second sector, but he's all good now. Through the first sector, he was just over a tenth up on his previous best. He's still a tenth up, lost a little bit of time in sector 2, and that's actually where Sasha Glatter has gapped him slightly. So the team area 50, game area 51 car very, very strong in that second sector. Anthony Ans did run wide there. I'm pretty sure that's illegal because you must keep all 4 wheels on the curb. So I'm not sure about the legality of this lap presently by Anthony Ans. But through the final corner, he comes. And to the line, the championship leading car is going to stay left. And he is going to go on to pole position. He does a 45.284 200ths of a second. But slight concerns over whether that lap is completely legal.
Yes, the abuse of that curb is allowed, but as you say, 2 wheels off the curb, it's hardly ideal and probably costs you more time than you actually may possibly gain. As Anthony tries to negotiate the incredibly dangerous exit of the pit lane, that's going to be extremely interesting in the race. I can only see code 80s. That's all I can see from how you have to merge back into the racing line of the exit of, which is almost a flat-out turn 1.
It's don't jinx it, according to Jimmy Allison. There we go.
Okay, I take back every word I've ever said about code 80s and turn 1.
There are ways around the pit lane exit there, like if it had just gone down a little bit further down the straight. I mean, there's no ideal way of doing it considering the section that it's on, but not the greatest pit lane exit I've ever seen. But we shall see come race day. Such a glad about to start another lap. Of course, now he's kind of like, well, someone's taken my pole position away from me. I'm not having that. We do have 20 cars, which means split 10-10 between the 2 rooms. Of course, the room 2 was plagued with issues much similar to the red flag. I believe that race was cancelled in the end back at Spa.
I really say enthralled in how room 1 was going on. I just heard rumour the room 10 was just basically terminated as onboarded Daniel Schmidt.
Gone straight off at Le Mans.
That's the problem of you trying to use too much of that curb plus grass on the exit of Le Mans.
Yeah, is a thing. I'm pretty sure I heard last time out, and from practice of this, that we have a car in 5th position. It's just over 9/10 off of pole position at the moment. Lazarus Philippakos. Is that about right? I believe it's a controller user.
That is
Mr. Philippakos, which I'm not 100% on that. I have just heard things. And if that is true, congratulations to that guy. That is incredible to pull off that in RF2. Not 100% sure, but my word, if it is.
I don't know how that makes me feel. I mean, having originally started back there racing with another little group of people, and there was a chap there that everyone probably knows, Jimmy B, on a controller beating people.
Yes.
That was irritating at best, but I'm guessing if that's all you use, you can become extremely good on a controller.
It's I actually fun fact from a league that, well, is now an R Factor 2, which is FSR. Back in their RF1 days, obviously a very different time. I'm pretty sure one of their champions, maybe like 2009, 2008, he was using a controller. Imagine that, winning an FSR championship, which was at its height. On a controller is incredible, especially, and then you look here in a very complicated sim. If you are on a controller in a very, very competitive field, that's incredible. I started on a controller and I was rubbish.
I started on a controller. I think pretty much everyone would have done at some point. I just can't use them anymore.
No, I can't either. I cannot either. I've tried doing racing games with a controller, and about the only people I can beat is my 7-year-old cousin. That's about as impressive as I get. I do feel like a god when I've done it, but man, it's really hard to drive on a controller outside of things like Need for Speed.
Yeah, I almost feel sorry for you. That's a bit me.
Wildly inexperienced in comparison, yeah.
Let's just hope you don't jump up and down and shout at him and make him feel even smaller than he probably already is.
Yeah, he's gonna yeah, I've won races, woo! Like, no, I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not that competitive. I'm not that bothered. We will go quickly through the top 10. It is changing all in all throughout. We've got 3 minutes to go, so we'll go very, very quickly through this. Currently on P1 is your number 45 Team Spirit Racing car. Then it is Game Area 51. Their first qualifying session, we're pretty short, and currently fighting for that pole position. Very, very close at the top between those two. Then it's the number 75 PRL Logitech Racing, closely followed by the number 29 SimHQ Motorsports. Then it's the number 11 Atlantic Motorsports car, the MVD Racing Team, the 69 Odin Racing car, the 137 RGPL car. The 138 is a bit lower down, but the 137 is actually is the one that's higher up in the championship. Then it's the 147 Seawolf Net Race Motorsport car in 9th, and the number 13 Flatline Racing car in 10th. But of course, we do have the number 60 Scuderia GT Italia down in 18th position, which does take that 10th spot away. So, barring penalties, Borgia Milan in the Flatline car is not into room 1. But looking at Philip Pacos, looking at that and some of his lines and stuff, pretty sure, yeah, probably isn't a controller. His lines just look a bit questionable. Juddery.
That's one way to put it.
Juddery. Like sharp.
Smooth.
You know?
Not smooth.
Not smooth. Yes, that's a better way of putting it. We will focus on Sasha. Sasha Glatter's coming up to the final turn. He's not on a lap, but he is going to start one, as we've got people messing about all over pit lane. As Philippakos, I think he does improve actually a little bit on that lap, but not by enough. Anthony Jan's coming up towards the second sector split. Is he going to improve? No, he isn't. 2/10 down.
Schmidt has improved. He's gone up to just 4/10 behind.
Oh, excellent. Oh, yes, he has indeed. Only 4/10. Now, he's getting a bit closer. I said only 4/10. I mean, that just shows how dominant these two are at the top. Doing a fantastic job.
He's almost in his own little bubble. 4/10 in front and 4/10 behind.
Yeah.
To the SimHQ car.
Indeed. Currently in 9th position, we have the 147 Seawolf Net Race Motorsport car that is 2/10 up on himself in the first sector. 4/10 down on provisional pole position by Anthony Jans at the moment, but still, this is looking a bit more comfortable. He does need to move himself a little bit further up. He's very close to the bubble. Loses 2/10 in that middle sector though, so I don't think this is going to be too much of an improvement. But yeah, just looking for other people that are improving.
Yeah, trying to keep an eye on the back end of the top 10, because obviously this is where
very
the
important.
split between room 1 and room 2. It's extremely close. There's a couple of gaps that, well, there's at least one that's just in the single digits of thousandths, with the Seawolf car 4 thousandths behind Shane Burke in 9th and 8th, respectively.
Yeah, of course, though, these guys are all going to be starting their final laps pretty soon, because we don't have very long left. And I know for certain, looking at this, Anthony Jans is not going to get another one. He is done for the day. Sasha Glatter, though, I think, is just going to cross the line in time. He's going to have a little bit to spare. And so he is only going to have one more lap in Sasha Glatter to go back onto provisional pole position. He comes out of the final corner. This isn't going to be an improvement. Although, wow, what an impressive final sector. He did beat his final sector by nearly 1/10 of a second. He was 3/10 down, but has run wide through turn 1, not wide enough. That's still good. You keep an eye on the rest of the order and see who else improves. Sasha Glatter's pulled off. Sasha Glatter has pulled off. He's done. That is it for our pole position fight, we are pretty sure. Daniel Schmidt, he is a 10th up in the middle sector, but has traffic. 10th up on himself. Not that it really matters. We think he's pretty much out of pole position. A car ahead, though, in P4, 2/10 up on himself as a SimHQ Motorsports car. In P4, a little bit further up the road, coming up towards the second split, but I don't see much changing.
No, I've been doing quick onboards in people in 12th, 13th, 14th. We had a mistake from Charlotte in the Kushu car, so they're clearly not going to be able to make it to the top 10. Currently on board with Van der Schoot.
Yeah, we've got Schmidt with traffic. Big traffic here from Van der Sloot, who's, when you were just talking about, he's run wide out of that corner. That is a shame. He was a 10th up.
That's both their laps gone.
Yeah. That's that done there. That's a big shame for Schmidt, because that was such a good lap. We'll keep an eye on P4 at the moment, the SimHQ Motorsports car, as Joe Chiampa goes up to 6th position. But out of the final corner comes the Sim HQ Motorsport car. Can it go up to third position? It looks pretty strong to possibly contend for it. Does it do it? No, it doesn't. Oh, Sharon van der Sloot crashes across the line. Great. He did improve quite a bit and got close, but not close enough. Very close, actually. But that there is your qualifying order. Of course, the big thing to note about this, in 17th position, you've got the Scuderia GT Italia car, which should be in that top split. But yeah, the top split there for that Scuderia GT Italia car. Yeah, we'll see how that one plays out. And obviously, you've got to take into account exceeding track limits.
For the most realistic steering system available on the market, look no further than Sim Steering from Leo Bodnar. Designed and hand-built at the home of British Motorsport's Silverstone circuit, it's extensively used by professional driver training centres and race teams including Formula 1 since 2010. The high precision and completely linear response coupled with high strength provides the ultimate in realistic steering force feedback. Visit simsteering.com.
There are your champions for World Sport Series 2015. Walk
Racing certainly always walked it this weekend.
Okay, welcome back to qualifying here at the 12 Hours of Sebring, the 5th round of the Season 8 Virtual Endurance Championship. And as always, as I say, it's myself and Lewis McGlade alongside Adam Hodgkinson. And we are about to get underway for Pro Qualifying. Of course, this one's been very interesting over the previous few rounds. I think we've had, again, four different pollsters. Last time out it was, we had Vires on pole last time out. They've also been on pole a couple of times. Very quick addition to the team, came in at Fuji, qualified second, and since then I've qualified on pole 2 times in a row. So a very quick team is this Team Vira's car. Lowest qualifying they've had, as I say, is the second at Fuji. They missed the first round at Silverstone, but definitely one to keep an eye on with Niki Djakovic, one of the people that we think is going to be looking pretty strong over in the Porsche Super Cup season. At Sim Racing Club, he's very, very good in Porsches. Is Mr. Djakovic?
Yeah. So running through the teams that are automatically through to Room 1, we've got Scuderia GT Italia, SRVN, and Northern Light Racing. So as long as they turn up, I'm pretty much sure they'll be in Room 1 as it is. So it'll be interesting to see who can get into Room 1 this time around.
Yeah, of course. The points all being split quite bizarrely and stuff like that for these guys, of course, with how it all was, with the races being split. We actually have a championship leader on the Scuderia GT Italia car being on 96.5 points, thanks to how well they were in the different separations of the race. But yeah, 31.5 points they got for the last round, so they're on 96.5, 2.5 clear of SRVN. That'd be weird if we come to the end of the championship and someone wins the championship by half a point. But SRVN did not have a good round at Spa. They had wins at both Fuji and Interlagos, but they really, really struggled at Spa. And that dropped them out of the championship lead and a long way behind. They should be looking to bounce back here at Sebring. and the dry conditions, which they did quite well in back at Silverstone. And of course, yeah, as you said, Northern Light Racing. They were in room 2 back at Fuji, but have looked strong ever since. So yes, we'll see how those lot appear later on in the session as some of these drivers are about to start their laps. I'm really not sure what a good time is for a GT Pro around this circuit.
I have to admit, I have absolutely no idea. I think we got the first guy. Is it Hane Albasati crossing the line to be the first one onto the start his lap?
Yeah, I think Hane Albasati is. Let's have a look. Whereabouts is he? What position?
He's mid-3, turn 1 at the
Yeah,
minute.
there is. Yeah, I think Hane Albasati is the first one to start a lap in the Ferrari. So this will be good. We'll be learning this one as we go. We might have like a 1 minute 51.4, and it'll be like, wow, that's amazing. We're not going to have them that quick. I know that for sure. But I have no idea what a good time is in these cars. So forgive us if we say something's amazing and it's really not.
I'd expect the Vipers to be possibly towards the front. To me, it feels like a very Viper track, but I could be mistaken there. I believe Vipers go extremely well when having to run some downforce.
Yeah, but some of the straights around here, I've heard some of the Vipers have been struggling a little bit. I'm not 100% sure. I've not heard very much from my inside source within the GT category. Of course, GT Pro and Am being very different, but I've not heard too much from my source. But I don't know who we're going to see up towards the front here, to be honest, because of the way the track is. Again, like in Spa, where you've got... Oh, we've had a crash out of T1. Alessandro Pruoti in the Scuderia GT Italia 106, the championship leading car, nonetheless, getting a little bit in the way there of a core racing car as it comes around. So, again, the awful pit lane exit. But, yeah, that was a bit silly there. But
I was going to say, I don't think there's an excuse to do it in, say, the qualifying session, especially because obviously you've got a maximum of, say, 20-25 cars on the track at once, so you should be able to manage to negotiate the exit of that without causing any incident. But
it did pull off line. I need to look at a replay of that before. Well, I don't think there's going to be any judgment from that. But yeah, it was a bit silly. But either way, the first lap time complete by Hane Albasati being a 1:56.340. Sounds pretty good to me.
Looks fairly solid, considering Mr. Schoenfeld is a good 6 tenths behind him, although I think we just had the first mistake from Hane and he's gone back to
he spun out of T2. This was a team that I'm not sure if this team's actually been in the championship before, because I believe Hane Albasati was actually in one of the Revolution cars at the previous round.
He was indeed.
Yes, so I'm pretty sure this is another new team. Yep, got confirmation there from Lord Allison. But Arnie Schoenvliet, previous pole sitter, I believe, maybe provisionally, it was provision. Was it the first round they had pole? Yeah, it was the first round they had pole. Of course, the changes with that team at the previous round that we stated in qualifying, where they are no longer in Vipers anymore, they're actually in C7Rs, meant their previous points in the championship are actually useless to them. But yeah, I think they're a bit more comfortable in the C7Rs. Just I don't know what their results have been like.
I would ask you if you know any difference, but I know your absolute hatred for anything GT like.
They're horrible things. Yeah, I can't stand them. Me and GTs are not friends. But the 303 car actually did very well back in Spa. In fact, with the way the points were separated, it actually only scored 1.5 less points than Scuderia GT Italia, which technically gives them second. So they did finish second back at Spa, if we just look straight from points. So the 303 car, again, looking very, very comfortable now that they've moved into the C7Rs. So getting up to speed with them very quickly, especially considering Spa, as far as I was aware, especially GTM being qualified and pole with a Viper, was actually more of a Viper track. So
That that confused me a little bit. That's why I would have thought Sebring would have been even more of a Viper track, because I guess the high downforce corners don't, apart from 1 and 2, don't really exist here. Maybe the little section before Le Mans, but other than that, it's all point and squirt. Some interesting going on at the back end of the main straight from Hanny.
Hanny Asepti, yeah, he's just trying to find some clear air, I guess, and try to get a good run through the final corner. But yeah, I mean, the thing is the Viper, as far as I'm aware, is a handling car, although it's American. But it's a primarily handling car, so it'd be really good through the final turn, really good through turn 1, and then through a couple of the mid to high speed corners elsewhere around the track. But that's where you know at Spa, obviously Eau Rouge doesn't really matter so much, but stuff like Pouhon and through that middle sector, that's where the Viper was gaining so much more time. It's just here, Hanning, I think he may have cut there.
I was going to say that was a bit optimistic of the use of track there. That's the section where you say you almost can bounce from one curve to another, but I don't think you're supposed to use the bottom of your car to surf along the top of the curbs.
No, I mean, could you imagine doing that in rail racing? I don't think they'll be too happy with you completely destroying the underside of the car. We did actually have Dennis Dorner. Nika Jakovic. There he goes. Straight up onto pole
Team
position.
Vires.
Yes, Team Vires. Straight up onto pole. Provisional pole 155.764. Looking to gain his 3rd in a row. Yes, very strong there from Jakovic. But yeah, Alsepti there, not really sure about those track limits. That would probably destroy the underside of the car. What I was going to say was Dennis Dorner in the 51 Sim Racing for Holland car did move up to 3rd. Of course, that team one in room 1 back at Silverstone. Room 2 rather. Sorry, room 2 back in Silverstone. They've looked like a strong contender. They didn't qualify in room 1 the last time, but we shall see. They've actually got a 50% record of qualifying in room 1, but looking very strong at the early stages here.
Got some interesting possible tactics going on with tyres. I'm not quite sure why, but I'm assuming they're just probably going to be pounding around and doing some laps, maybe with Team Rare and Game Area 51 using mediums, which I would say are a good half second, 6/10, possibly even more slower than a soft. And we got Hanne's just gone back up to pole with a questionable lap though.
Yeah, with that questionable cut at T4. But the questionable tyres. I mean, I don't drive in GT, so I have no idea what tyres best. We do see a lot of the time them using mediums and hards in the races. As we had Alessandro Puotti in the championship leading car move up into 7th position. They're more of a racing team anyway. But we've also had the SRVN, the number 211 car, move up to 6th now, as the All-Star Racing number 44 car goes up to 5th. So all change there, as we've now had Ballister in the 224 Walk Racing car move up to 5th position. They really struggled at Spa in qualifying. They were actually in room 2. Was Walk Racing. They did not have a great time. But yeah, that is now in 5th place for them, so good stuff. But yeah, the tyres, I'm not really sure why you'd be on the mediums, but maybe they're more comfortable. I don't know. I really don't know why you would be.
I distinctly remember someone using them in Silverstone, and there wasn't a much. Like, it didn't appear to hinder them.
Oh
at
yeah,
all
yeah,
at
yeah,
that
yeah,
time.
well,
But,
yeah. I remember.
I can't remember who that was. It might have even still been the Rare team, as Game Area have now moved on to the softs. It's still just the Rare team using the mediums.
Yeah, I don't know why you. Honestly, don't know. Not a GT driver, not my ting. As we had Nico Barkley in the number 180 Atlantic Motorsport car. Of course, one of the X oversteps move up into 6th position. We've also had the 370 ZDB competition move up to 13th. That's a car that I believe has got through into room 1 at least once. Twice actually. It was there in the previous round. Actually had a really good previous round. Did the 370 car. And yeah, obviously was in room 1 at the first round. Did struggle in between though.
Just giving the session some time to settle down, as obviously everyone gets up to speed. Hopefully getting in a decent banker.
Yeah, I saw the first 10 minutes of the session or so is very important for, especially when it's starting on this high rubber. You can get away with doing a quick lap early on. That's why we're actually seeing a lot faster laps earlier on in the session. Whereas places like Silverstone, as we've just seen a crash in the pit lane, which did make me giggle a little bit.
It looked like he just sunk, but I'm guessing he's just escaped.
He's just escaped. Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, we've had obviously the track rubbering in gradually across the session. Back at places like Silverstone, starting from a fairly green setting, whereas here it's on a fairly medium setting as far as I'm aware, rubber-wise, which means you can get that fast lap time out quite early in the session, which does mean that you can use the entire 25 minutes to appropriately. You can use the first 10 minutes to make sure you get a clean lap, and then you can use the next 15 to go all out, and that's very important to make sure that you've got a clean lap, because, boy, we've need to fall on some, haven't we, Odge?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Not you specifically, but the team itself.
Yes, I haven't even bothered with any sort of quality run, knowing that I wasn't going to be doing it. Pretty much not been doing it all season from personal reasons, but generally not normally here, which is a bit hampers. So.
Oh yeah, I forget that.
Yeah. But yeah, the rubber is pleasant. It's nice to have it, but you then don't get the possible progression as you would normally expect to see, especially from, say, sort of Silverstone, where you might get a second or even a second and a half, possibly even two, over the first 25 minutes with everyone pounding round. But yes, it definitely does give you a good idea within the first 7 minutes of what a good time might actually be.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually had Dennis Dorner move up into third position for the number 51 Sim Racing Holland car. Again, looking ever strong. Is that one? We've had more movement. The 151 game area 51 team 1, apparently, or team I, Roman numerals, move up to 7th. So that's comfortably in the top 10. Our people below that cut-off point that are the people in the top 3 in the championship. Scuderia GT Italia are actually down there now. As my thing's not working. Whoops. But yeah, Scuderia GT Italia are actually in 13th position at this moment, so they're one of these people that will be one of the teams that will be moving up. We've also got Sim Racing for Holland. They are also down there. No, sorry, Northern Light Racing. Don't know what I'm saying. Northern Light Racing are
16th.
16th. Yes, they are. Northern Light Racing 16th. Also, you've got SRVN 011 car, which is in 10th place, which actually means 9th, 8th, and 7th are not safe. And actually now it's, oh god, we've had a bit of changing here. We've had the Atlantic Motorsports car 101 move up and the number 44 All-Star Racing move up. This is actually getting very, very fast. Like, lots of these people have been up there in that top 5 and then suddenly down. Alessandro Puotti's a pure example of that. It was up in 6th position not that long ago as our championship contending 011 SRVN car goes up to 9th place. Of course, winner back at Interlagos and Fuji. So that car trying to move itself further up, but yeah, I would not want to be in the bottom, like 7, from 7th down in this session right now, because you are really under some serious threat as these championship contenders are just not as high.
I would go along to extend that right up to 3rd, because from 3rd to 10th is 6th.
Yes, and you can be very quickly shuffled down the order here. Much like it was in the LMP2 category, we've got 2 people fighting for pole position and everyone else fighting for every position below that, realistically. But yeah, one thing that I would suggest to keep an eye on through the race, if you are interested in the GT Pro category, is Arnie Schoenvliet goes up to 3rd position in the 301 Revolution Racing car, not by much, but by enough. Is keep an eye on the number 99 Team Vires car, because they have been very, I wouldn't say slowly, but I wouldn't say quickly either, but they have been approaching that top place in the approaching that top 3 in the championship, and they're only 14 and a half points off at the moment of 3rd position. They haven't won a race yet.
They're now on pole. Well, they're now up to 1st.
They're now up onto provisional pole again, yes, by nearly a 10th of a second. So yeah, keep an eye on that team, because they are going to be definitely one to keep an eye as this season unfolds. 8.5 minutes to go in this session. And yes, they are on that provisional pole so far, but well, we've seen it chop and change, and I'm sure Hani Al-Sabti won't want to have that car remain on pole position. Would love to start this car's effective career this season from that. It's quite a prestigious thing to get a pole position here in VEC, considering how strong the field is.
Yeah, God, yes. It's quite very similar looking session to the LMP2, where you've got the top two are a little bit of a break away from everyone else. It'll be interesting to see if there's anyone actually that's going to jump that gap or even slot themselves in the middle there. I mean, 8/10 from, well, you got 7/10 from second to third, and a decent chunk of time compared to that 7/10 attempt you then right down to from third to 10th.
Yeah, of course. The main thing to notice for these guys is, as much as pole position's great and everything, you do just have to get into that top 10 or secure yourself, dependent on where the three below are, because it's a 12-hour race. It's not like a 6-hour race that we're going to have come the next 2 rounds. It's a 12-hour. That's a lot of time. Of course, considerably shorter than we've just had at Spa, which thank God for that, because it was brutal. Right, you were awake for all of it, weren't you?
Yeah, I tried to not be awake for the start, but I just was being, and then I finally gave up the car at some ungodly hour in the morning.
Yeah.
As in 5 or 6, I can't remember quite which. It was after. Oh no, I didn't give up the car. I forgot to put fuel in my sleeping state, so we didn't actually finish.
Yeah,
that was my fault.
I distinctly remember waking up about 2 hours into the race, and I was awake until the end of the race, and did the final stint, which was probably one of the most uncomfortable experiences in sim racing, as Hani Al-Sabti did actually improve his lap time, 8 thousandths off of pole position at the moment. So very, very close there.
Walk Racing have also scooted up to third. Wallister's moved up there.
They have indeed, yeah. That's a great qualifying for them. Of course, after the struggles that we said about Spa, I'm sure some of these teams will be like, "Oh, thank God, it's a dry session. Thank goodness for that," because it was the changeable conditions that threw off quite a lot in qualifying a few weeks ago. So I'm sure, some of these boys are definitely going to want this.
Yeah,
we do still have a couple of cars on mediums. As Stefan Kanitz in the All-Star Racing car goes up to 7th position, and once again Bram Beelen down in 10th. Of course, we already know that car's already through, but the bottom 2 in that top 10, being Scuderia GT Italia and Bram Beelen, are both the top 3 in the championship, and we've also got one more in 17th position, which does mean that 8th place, the 151 game area 51 Team 1 car, is actually not in Room 1. They will be scooted out onto provisional pole, which is unfortunate for them. And I'm also seeing another one, Miroslav Davidovic in the 303 Revolution car. They're a lot lower down than I thought they'd be as well. They were up there in Room 1 last time out, as Revolution normally are, so it's a surprise to see them as low as they are. Of course, a team which saw interesting heights in qualifying back at Fuji with a double. I think they were both disqualified.
Wow, I did not know that.
They were disqualified for breaking very specific rules about drafting.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, it's one thing that we've never tried doing with the DHR cars, thank God. But yeah, from that they have bounced back, and looking good now that they're in C7Rs. But 4 minutes to go in this session. I don't think they're going to be ones to contend for pole position. We've got a few people just about to start their laps. We've actually got Bram Beelen coming down the back straight now into the final turn, who's 2/10 up on his previous best. Although he is going to have Arnie Schumvliet scoot across in front of him, but that's going to cost him any time or anything. It'll just be a bit distracting. He's currently in 10th position as Bram Beelen. And towards the line he goes. He's going to stay left, and he is going to improve by 0.6 of a second. That is quite a nice improvement indeed. Puts him up into 3rd position, which is very, very handy to get their championship charge back underway. We've got... oh no, they're not on a lap yet. We've got a few people, yeah, so a lot of these people are just starting their laps.
I think we've got probably the Miroslav is probably the first one of the
new lap
edge
times.
of like between 7th and 13th is probably going to start his lap first.
Yeah, he's currently a 10th up through the first sector on his previous best is Ballister in the walk racing kart. So that's always handy. Brad Beelan's actually half a tenth down. And Arnie Schoenvliet's a quarter of a tenth up. So they're all roughly doing their same consistent times. Dorner is about 200ths up. Wow, these guys are very consistent. I'm very impressed. They call it GT Pro for a reason. Is Ballister, not sure if that was illegal. That would be very, very close in the approaches to the S's section. He is, though, a tenth up on himself. Not quite sure as to the legality of that. It'll be very, very close. I think he probably would be in, but very close, as I said. Through that final corner, locks up the front right big style. And that is not going to be something you want to do in the race, although obviously not a race session at the moment. He's going to stay left or not. He's going to just go back to the middle. He does improve by a tenth of a second, moves himself back up to 3rd position. Don't know why he went back to the middle and then pulled over, but each their own.
Improvement for pole current time. Al-Sabti's moved a good 10th and a half clear of Davidovic. Jakovic even.
Yeah, that's actually very, very nice for Al-Sabti. But if anyone can get in front of that time, it is Jakovic, who is currently behind, although not on a lap. Never mind, he's behind Schoenvliet, but I'm pretty sure Schoenvliet is also, escaped going out to get some fresh tyres, blah blah blah, this, that, and the other. Get that fresh rubber and get ready for the final minute. Of course, these guys only going to get one more lap. Now, we do have Ballister out. I don't know if Ballister's going to be able to get all the way around. It's going to be very close if he doesn't push.
I was sat on board Miroslav on his previous lap, and unfortunately made a mistake, and now he is actually going to finish in, at best, 11th.
Nico Barkley slides out of turn 3, so I don't think he's actually going to be improving, if I'm honest, as much as one slide's not much. It was quite a hefty one. As keep an eye on Canitz. That is a nice improvement. Currently down in P8, the number 45 All-Star Racing Team car in Sector 2. He's nearly half a second up on himself. So this could be a big improvement up towards that top, the top 3, top 5 kind of position. So keep an eye on this Porsche as it comes through the final sector. Locking up the front right big time. We're seeing that a lot from these boys, especially in the Porsches. Of course, rear-engined, not too much load on the front. Especially not the front right through that section. Here he comes up to the line. Only a tenth. He lost 0.3 of a second in that final sector. But still, an improvement nonetheless, up to 7th.
The line through the last corner looked very sort of shallow. Maybe just tightened up a little bit towards the end, knowing he was so far up on his own time. That probably just tightened up in that last sector.
Yeah. Of course. I'm not sure what other improvements we're going to get. We did have Ballister to the line there. He did actually improve a little bit, but not much. We don't have Jakovic. Jakovic is actually on a lap. He is up as well, so we'll come back to Jakovic towards the end of this session. Can Jakovic steal the pole? Dorner's not going to start a lap. He's too late in the session. And Schoenvliet is also on one, but he has run wide. So we'll go back to Jakovic as Schoenvliet's actually run wide in front of him. Caused a yellow flag. Don't know if that would be distracting. I certainly would be. But he is a tenth and a bit up. Is Jakovic on the Porsche slide there? Is he still going to be up? I don't know. Comes up to that second sector split. He is still up on Al-Sabti's time, down on himself though. So he needs to absolutely nail this final sector, which it doesn't look like he's doing there by clipping that curb too much. and sliding through. Yeah, it's done. It's done. Too much sliding there for Djakovic, and that means that provisional pole position will go the way of Hani Al Sabti.
Just trying to find anyone who's still on a lap, and they're very, very
Pretty
few.
sure everyone's done. We've got Blocker out of the final turn. Doesn't improve. No, I don't think anyone's going to improve now. That is qualifying done. Our final session about to get underway here in the GT side of qualifying, and normally coughs up something good, and yeah, I'm quite excited for this qualifying. Of course, last time out in the wet qualifying session, we had Eric Strana, his first time in the series in the league, grab pole position for Magenta Warriors, the number 42 car. This is another one where we've had three different pole sitters. We've had the Scuderia GT Italia number 31 car twice. We've had the number 42 Magenta Warriors car once, and we've had the number 845 Dark Racing car once at Fuji. But I'm pretty sure now that the 845 car is back in the lead of the championship after speaking with one of their main drivers.
Yep, they've
being
got
Adam
a
Taylor.
3-point lead overall.
Yeah, of course, they struggled to get back on track with the disqualification they had back at GTM.
Fuji.
It was back at Interlagos, actually.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Interlagos, yes, with
the flooding.
Mr. Taylor's flooding.
The flooding, yes. Which, of course, that is one of the bigger rule changes for this round, that no longer is the limit for a driver in a car 4 hours. You can actually do as much as you want in one go, although I would recommend 4 hours as being a pretty good point to drop out of.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how I feel about the rule being removed, but obviously because the plug-in doesn't work, which is fine. I can understand that, but I'd still like the rule to stand. Yes, it'd probably be a bit more of an admin.
It'd be too hard to step in, and we don't really want Jimmy doing much more admin work than he does already. It'll be back at some point, we're hearing, so that's not really a surprise. It is good to have a rule for 4 hours, but provisionally, especially considering the red flag scenario that we had back at Spa, it's always good to remove any unnecessary plugins, any unnecessary load from the server. But nevertheless, the 845 car is actually the only car, as far as I'm aware, to be affected by this. And but they still have won, technically. They've won 3 of the 4 races this season. The only one they DQ'd from, which I'm pretty sure they DQ'd from the lead. So very strong is that team, but very close is the championship. 5.5 points actually separates the top 3, being Dark Racing's 845 car, the number 31 GT Taylor that I spoke about having 2 pole positions this season, and the 102 Atlantic Motorsports, previously Overstep car. So yes, I'm pretty sure that's the... Do they have an Aston? Or is that a Corvette? Is that C7? That's a C7R. Never mind.
Yeah,
they've got
Banzai aren't actually too far away either in 4th.
No,
They're only another 2 points behind
back.
3rd.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is a C7R because they have a C. I'm pretty sure they've got a C7R and an Aston up in GT Pro, which always confuses me. But nevertheless, yes, that is the 102 car. So those are your top 3. Those are the ones that are kind of ruled out effectively from this qualifying session. Although, not going to lie, I would actually expect Adam Taylor to possibly go and grab pole position here.
Bit of a sneaky move by
did,
Mr. Taylor
yes.
to pop in front of Mr. Trevelyan-Johnson there on the exit of the pit road.
Yes, Trevelyan-Johnson there, not having the best round back at Spa. We were told that he had a disconnection of his wheel in possibly the worst place. Apparently he had a disconnection of the wheel coming into Eau Rouge, which is terrifying.
Ouch.
Yes. That car did not score any points, obviously a DNF at Spa, but did win back at Interlagos and has had good pace. So do expect that car, 6th position in the championship at the moment, to move itself further up. Trevelyan-Johnson's very, very fast, although it's Ed now, not Edmund, apparently, but we know it's Edmund still, so that's fine. But that car we would expect to be a bit high up in this qualifying session. Dark Racing, again, another car I would expect to be maybe fighting for top honours. Oh, I'd very much expect it to fight for top honours. And then Scuderia GT Italia I'd expect to as well. Not really sure. This is where we're going to find out what the difference is really between the cars. Is it, obviously we've had a Ferrari on provisional pole position so far in front of a Porsche. Are we going to see a Ferrari on provisional pole position in GTM as well?
Yeah, as you say, you had your insider knowledge of, well, at least insider contact with the Viper, whether they're not going to be able to battle there today. But yes, I'd expect it. Possibly, I don't want to expect the Dark Racing, but if anywhere in the top 4, that car should be present.
Yeah, I mean, I say that we'd expect it to fight for pole position. It's only had one pole position this season. It's just been so dominant in the race as that car. It's so they're such a racing team at the moment. They've been so strong. But he's going to come out of the final corner to start a lap. But yes, this car definitely a race car. Maybe not for qualifying, but I don't know. You never know. And Taylor's a very quick guy, and qualifying for that car, we shall see where he goes. Turns in way too early for T1, clips the wall, keeps going though. Good job. Lost probably quite a chunk of time there, did Mr. Taylor.
Yes. I mean, the way that the Dark, I think it's all down to the way that Dark Racing approach things. I mean, they've got an extremely strong lineup these days. It's obviously started off with Adam, Pedro, and a few others that are now actually in their second car in the AM team. And then they've obviously inherited or managed to snatch up a couple of chaps from a team that fell away, and I can't remember their name because it was basically a web address.
Oh, that was the MTech Technology, whatever it is, team.
Yes,
Yeah, that team. Yes.
Yeah, so that's an
MTech.
extremely strong lineup in that number 1 Dark Racing car as such. But they generally don't, from what I've seen. I mean, even up until qualifying today, they weren't doing qualifying runs, or if they were, they weren't really showing their pace. They always hide mid to low pack if people were doing qualifying runs. They generally are mainly concentrate on the race, which is where the points are earned.
Yeah, you don't get any points for qualifying. The only points that you potentially, I guess, get for qualifying is when you qualify in the top 10. You're instantly basically given 5 points as long as you finish the race.
No.
No. Okay. It's just a comment thing here from admin. It's fine. It's all good. Oh yeah, I see. But anyway, Adam Taylor crosses the line at a 58.955. Edmund Trevelyan Johnson, second car across the line, 2 minute flat. That's not a great time there from Trevelyan Johnson. He'll move a bit further forward, basically a 2:01. And then we have the ROTW car moves up into second, and yep, everyone's just adding in their time. So we'll get to this in a bit. But currently, Adam Taylor, even after clipping that wall, still on top of the session so far.
If you would have been on board with Mr. Trevelyan Johnson, you would have seen how to properly clip the wall at turn 1, but still managed to survive.
Smash it?
Yes. Blimey, that's a bright yellow Ferrari.
Yeah, which one is the bright yellow Ferrari? The one that's just gone past Adam Taylor.
Tobias,
yes.
10 in the
071.
talking door racing car. That is the brightest colour you can possibly have, I think.
Yes, that is a very, very bright yellow.
They have downloaded the Sun.
They download moresun.com. Yeah, I must say there's 2 of them. There's a black and yellow one and a yellow and black one, as far as I'm aware. Much prefer the black and yellow. Are they the same team?
I should imagine so.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, the black and yellow one considerably better. Sorry, that yellow is way too bright, and I'm not even a fan of yellow anyway. But jeez,
I'm not saying I don't like it though.
No, don't do this to me, Hodge. Don't do it.
To be fair, you can see that car coming from a mile off. So
I was trying to do a lap earlier, and it was like probably 10, 15 car lengths in front of me. It was distracting. It was so bright. Oh,
maybe that's a
dear.
tactic we should use next year. Maybe.
Yeah. Do you think it glows in the dark? With it being that,
We're going to
light?
tell, aren't we? Find out next week.
It's a very bright car. Currently, though, Rizzo on pole position of the Ferrari up there. That is the number 31 Scuderia GT Italia car. Up there on pole position, obviously second in the championship, only 3 points off, as we've just had Oliver Thornton. That is in the Atlantic Motorsport car. I believe that is the 102. Yes, it is. Currently in provisional pole position in third in the championship, though, so not too far off. So the top three in the championship, the top three in your session as it stands, which is fantastic to see.
Mr. Strana running a little bit too wide in exit turn 1 and abandoning the lap.
Yeah, the sad story here for the Viper, for the Magenta Warriors Viper. I'm sure you're aware of it, Hodge, that all upgrades have been banned for all the cars, which means they no longer have the ridiculous big wing on the back, which has made that team very, very sad. No more.
So they have the poor excuse for a wing these days, then.
Yeah. It's not like this. It's not higher than the car anymore. It doesn't look ridiculous, which makes Bailey happy and makes Hardwick very sad. So I'm sure Oscar would spend the entire broadcast here ranting about that. But it's probably best that he's not here. But yes, it's a shame, but it is what it is. Of course, upgrades, again, more load, so we want to get rid of all of that rubbish.
Just some interesting things going on at the moment. We've got the Feeder Sport Corvette on hard tyres.
On hard tyres?
That possibly a mistake, but we'll see how that turns out, I guess.
Yes, that is down in 13th position at the moment, the 030 car, driven by Bogush. Hard tyres, pretty sure that's got to be a mistake. Unless people's strategies really are completely bizarre to us.
Well, to be fair, on the good old days before Silverstone and our pre-race setup change, we could go extremely quick on the hards, but they just didn't really last very long.
Adam Taylor back onto pole position at 158.410. Don't know if he actually smashed that wall this time. And Edmund Trevelyan Johnson, we said he'd improve. He goes up to 4th, and then the number 89 race weekend team, they got to 5th. So yes, but yes, we were pretty quick on the hard tyres. I guess when you sit on them for ages, you do kind of learn how to go quickly on them, how to use them properly. But you'd still kind of argue that we'd still use soft tyres in qualifying because there's still a huge pace advantage. I also see the number P8 at the moment, which is the first time that James Johnson has qualified that car. I believe they were pretty strong at the previous couple of rounds. They qualified. They only actually qualified 8th at Interlagos in Room 1, but they were very, very strong in that session. And of course, they qualified 3rd back at Spa. That was both qualified by Jerne Simoncic. So not really sure they'll be that strong this time with good old JJ behind the wheel, but he is a competent driver. I have seen him race very, very recently within the last few days, and his form in RF2 is getting stronger and stronger. So look to see him maybe move up towards the end of the session. I don't know if he will, but
I'm guessing they didn't have a particularly good Spa, as Vodball had 0 points.
Yes. JJ was originally going to start. JJ being James Johnson was originally going to start the car, and his game crashed on the start. And that meant they could not rejoin. They couldn't rejoin. Every time they rejoined, it would say they couldn't race. So yeah, the rejoin didn't work for them.
Possibly had the best experience of Spa then, if they actually ever got to take part. That might not be such a bad thing.
It wasn't that bad, mate. He did. JJ was actually one. You'd like to know, he actually did a lot of the broadcast towards the end. So thank you very much to him, of course, with Hinsey as well, and everyone that did the broadcast. back at Spa. Obviously, doing a broadcast for an entire day is quite tedious. But they did a very good job, as we had the number 55 ROTW racing team car go up to second position, and getting amongst that lot did Zanobini. That was
great
an
name.
awful attempt pronunciation there. I do apologise. As Eric Strana, there we go, the Viper for number 42 Magenta Warriors racing car goes up to 7th. So that's kind of expected from him, as he was previously on pole position back at Spa. I know Eric's. I don't know how comfortable he is actually in a GT. I know he's more of a front wheel drive driver. You see, if you give him a front wheel drive touring car, I'd be happy. But a rear wheel drive, powerful, heavy Viper American thing, I'm not sure how happy he really is.
I think, if I remember correctly, when he was introduced to it at Spa, the words that he said probably weren't
audible for
very
this
well.
They weren't audible for this broadcast. They were pretty bad. He did constantly say this car feels like various things. I know, I was driving with him. It did feel like various things. It was horrible. They got the setup working pretty nicely on that car, and currently here, I believe both Magenta Warriors cars actually retired from Spa, with Tommy Oyala in the LMP2 car smashing the glitch on the inside of Eau Rouge, and Reese Gardner in the GTM car on a restart had a crash. So neither of those cars finished, which is a shame, I guess. But here at Sebring, all fresh start and stuff like that, and no Eau Rouge to crash yourself on. So, hopefully better things for the two.
There is a turn 1 though.
There is a turn 1 that is an absolute yes. And new damage. Sorry, did I just hear new damage?
Yes, new damage model. That basically means replacing a front. So if you lose a front splitter, you probably sit in the same time for pit lane. But any suspension damage, anything at all, the time ramps up. I think the most in testing we've had Kieran a report back of a 20-minute, 46-second stop.
Yes. I have actually seen this. I did open up. It's not illegal, don't worry. I did open up the vehicle file. As far as I'm aware, it's not illegal. to check, and in there was the pit stop times. And it says something like the maximum pit stop times was something like 1,200 seconds. That's purely suspension. Is 1,200 seconds, and that was only on LMP. That's so much time. So if you do get any suspension damage, don't repair it. Basically, I mean, you got to imagine if you were actually in a real racing situation here and you had to replace the suspension on a car, that is not like a 20-second job, right? That is a long job to replace the entire suspension component. So yeah, fair enough.
I think it might. Well, I don't think it'll ever sort of change some people's approach to racing, but it's a good idea to bring back a bit more of a realistic sort of repair time if you fudged your car into a wall or into another unfortunate person. Then to have to pay for that in the pit lane is probably the best way to at least do it. And then obviously, if they need a slap on the wrist, they receive that afterwards.
Yes, I mean, my first experience in the car at Spa was to take over the car. I've explained this to you earlier. I took over the car from Mr. Bailey. I left the pit lane, went all the way down to Eau Rouge, and crashed very heavily. Which did give me quite a lot of suspension damage. I was in the pit lane for about I say very heavy. It was only about a minute and a half, which I'm really glad. Thank you for not having that in Spa, because I probably would have been in there for like 8 or 9 minutes, which would not have been fun.
I think it will obviously in the longer races, obviously standing there for 5-6 minutes up to obviously 20 is probably not the best idea, but in the shorter races it will come more time. You have obviously less time to make up or even sort of regain any time you do lose in the pit stop. So for a 12-hour lap, you probably don't want to spend, obviously in any endurance race, you want to spend as little time in the pit lane as possible. But with the ramped up, more realistic time sat there, it's just going to affect the end result.
Yes. Also, I've just been spammed with messages, and by spammed I mean I've been sent one message from Dari Tapu, who's actually one of the people in the 014 of Oddball Racing car. It was actually apparently Jerne Simoncic's game that crashed on the start, so it wasn't even JJ's fault. Well, it wasn't even Genetor, let's be honest. As the ROTW car goes back up onto second position, we'll go quickly through the top 10 order, and of course, including the cars. Oh yeah, there is 2 dark racing cars. Didn't know there was 2. That's why you said the number 1 dark racing car. Ah, I get you now.
I pay attention at times.
I don't pay attention to anything. Literally nothing. But anyway, the top 10 as it stands presently, we have the number 845 Dark Racing car on pole position, in a shocking turn of events, although, they are under pretty big pressure. Only 2 and a bit tenths behind is the ROTW racing team car, and then Scuderia GT Italia second in the championship, the number 31 car, closely followed by the number 102 Atlantic Motorsports car, of course, third in the championship. Then it's the number 89 Race Weekend team car, the number 43 Three Wide Motorsports, the 033 Revolution racing car, which we do expect to be a little bit higher up. Are they still in a Viper? They are still in a Viper, yes they are. He heads towards the line. Is he going to improve? Yes, he does improve, goes to 4th. There we go, he is a bit higher up. Then we have the 017 Talking Door racing car, loud. Oh no, it's the less loud one. This is the black and yellow one that I think looks really good. Then we have the number 174 Rev Sim racing car, which I think is a great looking Viper. And then we have another Viper being Eric Strana for Magenta Warriors in 10th. That is your top 10 and legit top 10 as well, as we have all 3 championship protagonists up there as well. Although I will say, if you look at the bubble time between Eric Strana and James Johnson, it is exactly the same. It's a 1,000th difference, although R-Factor 2 is telling me 1,000th there, and they're actually exactly the same time. So it's actually very, very close. Less than 1,000th between the 2 of them for that bubble spot, that number 10. So I'm sure JJ won't be very happy with that. I certainly wouldn't be.
No, and you've got there's 6 cars in that bubble of a 10th. So it goes all the way from, you probably can even squeeze Alex in 6th all the way down to 12th.
12th position, yeah.
All about a 10th apart, which is incredibly tight.
It's very, very tight. Yeah, they're actually just over a 10th apart between 6th and 12th position, which is incredible. And actually, that means it's less surprising that you have 2 people separated by 1,000. They are still separated by 1,000th, however, have been moved down by the Texas drivers. As you said, Manuel came through the final turn, just as you were saying that, and does improve up into 10th position, which does, still keep everything, actually moves everything even more close between this 6th to 12th battle. So it is now 100% within a 10th, which is incredible. They actually have a second gap on 13th position, does this little group of drivers. So, yeah, very, very close. Not the kind of place I'd want to be, if I'm perfectly honest. I'm sure Edmund Trevelyan-Johnson is quite happy he got out of it.
Yeah, he's probably the only, possibly even just the top 4, being more comfortable. I was going to say, use the word comfortable for them, but with it being this close, those top 4 people having the 2 tenths they have on everyone else is probably comfortable, as it seems, as the 10th and covers the next sort of 6 or 7 people.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, if I was one of these people in the top 4, I'd be looking back at that and going, oh, wow, good job I'm not back there. It's as much as it's always great to have that competitive push, it's always horrible when you're in it, to know that if you make let's say if you're on your fastest lap for some of these guys, when you think about it, 1/10 is just messing up one corner. If you messed up one corner, that's not 1 or 2 positions gained, that's 6 positions gained. That's a lot of positions. that's unreal. It just shows how close this class is, realistically, in the mid class. So it's always why it's a great one for qualifying.
Even the lads towards the rear who are, say, the 1.8, say from 13th, it's still like a second, then covers 13th to 18th. So even being a chunk of time off of technically the leaders, they're still embroiled in their own battle. Although some say less important, but if you can get in front of someone who, I don't know, you've always generally been behind, surely it's like a victory for your team.
Yeah, of course. Also, good usage of various words there. Embroiled. I like it.
Yes.
I like it. I approve. Um, but yeah, we've got people about to start a lot of their laps. Some have already started. Some are going on. As we do actually there have the number 102 Atlantic Motorsports car did prove just a little bit by about a half a tenth of a second. Not enough to move a position, but enough to move past. Enough to move a bit close to that top lot. I'm just trying to keep an eye on other people, whether we're getting any improvements. We've got James Johnson on a lap. We've got Eric Strana starting a lap. It's that time of the session. 3 and a bit minutes to go. Everyone's wanting to get onto some fresh rubber. As in ninth position, we've got the 174 Revs sim racing car. Net half a second down. Never mind. In that first sector, a long way down. Oh, are we going to get... How much movement do you think we can see in this? We've got James Johnson 6/10 down. So, yeah. Although, directly behind him is... I know it's one of these cars that is that second gap off. But it is the R Factor 2 race car that's just had the Banzai Motorsports car move in front of it. They are 2 and a bit tenths up in the first sector alone. So keep an eye on that car as it plops around.
And surely being the people towards the back have actually got the most to gain, so...
Absolutely.
I was going to say that bunch in the middle, I would not like to predict anything from that.
No.
Hopefully you might even see, I don't know, one of the people that are a little bit behind join them somehow, but it's always manic.
We had, I just plus minus to it. That bright yellow talking door racing car moved up to 14th position, and the R Factor to race ones lost a lot of time in that middle, so about a 10th in that middle sector. So they'll be coming round that corner, the final corner now, currently in 15th place. I don't reckon they're going to improve so much. But we shall keep an eye on them as they do. Why not? Give them a bit of coverage as they come down towards the line. They do improve by 2 and a bit tenths of a second, move up to 13th position. That is good for them. That moves them up to the back of that pile once again. James Johnson starts a lap in front of them. Eric Strana, he is about 300ths off of himself. Now remember, this is one of the people that is close to that bubble. 300ths off. He comes down towards the final corner, not too sure how he feels about this lap. Going right, I'm pretty sure he's going for another one. He does improve in the final sector, but doesn't improve the lap, which is going to be really frustrating. But he is basically on his final lap here at Sebring in this qualifying session.
Qualifying being over for Dark Racing, Mr. Taylor. He's parked it in the pits for the moment.
The Viper, the 174 car, is actually didn't improve on itself in the first sector, but matched Adam Taylor's first sector to the 1000th. So, pretty good way to start your lap.
Definitely no
and we'll
complaints.
watch up to the second sector. There we go. Lost 3 tenths to Taylor. Lost maybe like another half tenth to himself. So that's not great. 3,000. The 3,000ths behind is Eric Strana on his PB through the first sector. James Johnson isn't going to be able to improve. He's a long way off, and I don't think he will get another lap. No, he won't. He's going to be very, very close to check a flag, but he won't get another lap. Unfortunately, will. James Johnson, especially not if you run out of the second to last turn, will run wide there. The Texas driver's car. This is a Texas driver's car. Currently in P10. Up on Taylor in the first sector by nearly 2 tenths. Up on himself by about a tenth. Coming up to the second sector, loses time. Lots of people are losing time.
Yeah, so I don't know whether they have a set towards maybe speed rather than the middle, because the middle sector seems to be where you can make or break yourself here with all the slower corners rather than all the fast stuff in the first and last sectors. So that's probably where it is. It's the low speed where the difference is actually coming out rather than who can actually go quicker through the first corner. It's all about the hairpins here, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know how much of an improvement we're going to see from any of these boys. Again, we've got loads of people that are close. We've got the other talking door, the 017 car, that is pretty close. It's actually 3 tenths up. Keep an eye on this car. This car is going somewhere indeed. Less than a tenth off of Adam Taylor in the second sector. So this car is definitely going somewhere. 3/10 up on itself, and we know how close this battle is. It runs a bit too wide there out of Le Mans, but is going to run down towards the final corner. He's one of the last people. He's got actual Daniel Faber directly in front of him, not improving in that Aston Martin, the 3-wide Aston. But watch this through the final corner, the 017 car and the 143 car, or 43 car rather, comes towards the line. Faber pulls off, really. He isn't going... Oh, he does improve by 0.2 of a second as Faber. That's incredible. But there we go. As I'm not sure, did the Talking Door racing car improve?
Yes.
Yes, it did by 1/10 of a second. Yes, it did, but not by much.
It seems to be the where they're losing. I wonder where they're losing their time in the
Final sector,
obviously the final sector. Maybe it's the approach and the last corner, possibly.
Yeah, but either way, that's a good way to end the qualifying session. Seeing a couple of people get close, but it's a shame for those people below the top 10. Oh, yeah, there we go. As we've heard the command from Jimmy Allison that the qualifying is completely over here for the 12 hours, not 24, the 12 hours of Sebring. Of course, keep an eye on the Virtual Endurance Championships Facebook page, of course, in the forum as well, to see the official qualifying order come out in a couple of days once everything's been checked. But of course, it's been great to have you here, Mr. Hodge.
It's been an interesting afternoon.
Yes, and of course, having Jimmy Allison here on cameras, bringing you the broadcast, and of course, managing how qualifying goes ahead. So thank you very much for that. But that has been qualifying for the 12 hours of Sebring. So we will see you in a week's time when the green flag waves and the race starts.